Welcome everybody to today we're talking about Forma and how you can begin all your projects this way, so you can learn everything you need to know about the site that you're developing. If you want more information about what Forma is, go to the on-demand area of our website and view my past Forma presentations. But for this one, it's a workflow, so it doesn't show all the things you can do in Forma. What it does show is the practical use of Forma. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ian Robinson and I'm the infrastructure consultant here at Grey Tech. So I advise, train and support your usage of all of the products in the infrastructure projects. So this will include Forma amongst other products such as Civil 3D, InfoWorks and Map 3D and the like. Here's my contact details. If anyone wants to email me any questions, you're very welcome. There should be time at the end for Q&A, and I'll put my email address up then as well. So this series started last week with Kevin setting up the project in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. If you haven't seen it, it's on our website and it can be viewed on demand. Now don't worry about this one if you're not a Construction Cloud customer. This presentation is on Forma, so it's for everyone, especially if you have the AEC collection because you already have access to the tools I'll be showing you. We're going to learn everything we can at the beginning of a project using Forma, and then we can pass this on to the rest of the team. So what you'll see next week is I'm going to finish up in Revit, and then next week Steve's going to show what's new in Revit 2025. After that, Rob is going to talk to you about the coordination of your models between Revit and Advanced Steel. He'll then pass to Alec, and Alec will flash out the structural details in Advanced Steel. He'll then pass on to Greg, who will create a stunning project images with the AC collection. And then finally, with Matt, he's going to look at project coordination with Navisworks. They'll all be recorded, so you'll be able to see them in the on-demand area if you don't have time to do it. But it's Friday afternoon, and let's just take half an hour out of your day and just enjoy it. So the plan today is to carry on from where Kevin left us last week, and now the project is set up, we're going to learn all we need to know about the site. So you may have seen some of my other presentations on the same subjects, but relating to GIS constraint data with Civil 3D, Map 3D, InfoWorks. They're the kind of main ones that I do my constraint data in. But in this project, we're going to be working with Revit, and we don't have anything yet at all. Now, because Kevin did his work last week, when I open Revit and I go to the Autodesk projects area, you will see these projects in there, so you can see that project in there. But in terms of the Revit model, we haven't actually done anything yet, so that's totally empty at this stage. What we do know is we're going to plan to build a hotel on a particular site. Now, while I'm in here, just going back to the work that Kevin did, we've got a note here that in my Windows, just Windows E, and you open up your Windows Explorer, the project is already there in my ACC docs area. And if I go into the project, you'll see all the project folders and files that he did using the ISO standards, all set up for me. And I love this because I didn't have to do any work at all. I didn't have to do anything to get it in my Windows. I didn't have to do anything to get it into my Revit. I didn't have to set up the project. It is all done for me. It's just like magic, really. And the beauty is it's all to standard, to the ISO standard. So managers, take note. All the projects set up will be done correctly for everyone centrally. They don't have to go and find anything. Nobody's going to be asking you any questions about where these are. So yeah, and of course I can still access it via the ACC hub as well, which I haven't shown in here. Now, this is the point where the civil guys, the planners, the architects, the structural engineers and the like start battling with software and compatibility. But what we're going to do is we're going to create the site in 3D in a real world context on real world coordinates with mapping data, with landform data, and with aerial photography. And we're going to sketch out a mass model of our building, just a rough idea of what we're going to put where. Might use a little bit of AI as well for the area that we're not designing yet. We're going to split this into 2 phases, just to get some ideas for the other part of the site. And we might also have a quick look to see if we have enough space for our parking for staff and for hotel residents, for example. And then we'll run some various analysis, so we can see how our hotel affects the surrounding area, and indeed how our hotel is affected by the surrounding area and weather. And then we're going to discuss it together on a nice notice board where we all have access and we can all have our say. When we're happy and we're all agreed, we're going to send it over to Revit, or rather we're going to create a cloud model for everyone to use, a coordinated Revit file with our mapping data, aerial photography and our mass model in our site details. Okay, so let's just get straight in with it. Here we go. Here is my Forma. So the first thing you're going to do when you open up Forma is check you're in the right hub. You may have multiple hubs. I've got access to the Greatech UK hub, and also I've got my own personal hub for doing things like this. Just create a new project. You'll get Planet Earth here. You can either type in a location in here or you can just zoom in. I know where I'm going, so I'm just going to zoom in. We're going to be working in Salford, over by the Salford Quays here. Now when you're getting close enough, you'll see it gives you a limitation. I think it's 2 kilometers either side. And we are going to do our site on here. If you want to see it a little bit better, just turn on the aerial imagery and you can see it a little bit easier. That's our site here. So that's what we're going to be developing. Note if you go in too small, it says it's a little bit small for the analysis. So just find a good compromise in there. I think I'll go there. Okay, just got Coronation Street in the bottom corner here. So you confirm the map area. It'll take just a few seconds to build the data for us. Here we go, it's just coming in now. The data comes from various sources. You'll see that in a second here. Here we go. Just like with things like InfoWorks, it gets the data from OpenStreetMap, and you get buildings and roads from them. The LiDAR data, that comes from the Environment Agency through the Inspire directive. That's all available. This Esri is the same as that. They've just used the same data set. I think they just wanted the name in here. But you'll notice the terrain is already added over here. What we want to do is just add the bits we need. So we're going to add in the buildings. It just gives you an opportunity to change that. Notice it's free, as it should be. It's OpenStreetMap, of course. So that has been ordered successfully. Let's add the roads in. That is ordered. There is new land registry. It's not really relevant for this job, but I'll put it in so you can see it. It's property boundaries. So again, that's open data that you can use. And we're done. You can import your own models in here as well. This webinar is not about that, but note that you can do that. So I'm just going to close that down. So we have our terrain in here. It does have aerial photography. You use the little I button here, and I can turn on aerial photography and you will see my site when it works. There we go. And there's our site that we're going to be working on. So we're going to plop a hotel in here. And as we mentioned, it's early stage design. I'll just turn the, no, I'll leave it on. Why not? Let's go and add the buildings in. So you get that from the library area on the left-hand side. And that's the things you've just ordered, okay? So I will put the buildings in. You just click on the preview button. I'll probably do a different webinar on the libraries and things like that. You can deselect buildings, so these ones that are flying off the boundary, you can just deselect them if you want, but there is a tool that will do that in a minute, so I'm just going to ignore that and just add it. You'll see you get an alert here, and it's telling us there are 6 elements outside of the terrain, and when I've selected that, it actually highlights them. Can you see there? So they're out, that's outside the terrain, so's that one. So we didn't need to deselect them because you can just click remove here. If you want to remove this one after the event, you can just double click to edit the base and just delete it and click done. But I'm okay with that as it is for now. Let's go and add the roads in again from OpenStreetMap. Nice little preview, add them in. Again, geometry alert, so there's one outside the terrain, just remove it. I love that, makes life so much easier. And the buildings, sorry, I've done the buildings already, haven't I? So let me just cancel that. It was the land property boundaries, wasn't it? Let's just bring them in. And you see there's all these different property boundaries. But this is part of this whole site here, all Peel, I guess, who own these. So you don't really need to add them if you don't want to. But if you do add them, again, I'll just get rid of the things outside. Oh, you may get duplicated objects as well occasionally, particularly from OpenStreetMap. Some people build on buildings and they shouldn't do. So again, if you get duplicates, just remove them and that's done. Let's go back to our model here, our proposal. If you wanted to not see things like the property boundaries, in this case they're not useful, but they could be useful for some jobs, just turn them off. You can just turn the little eyeball off there and now you can't see them. Same with things like the buildings, you know, you can turn them on and off, etc. Once you've created your model, you're going to want to invite people to it. This has moved since the last webinar. It's up here in the top right, members. We can go in here and you can see because I created it, I'm down as the project admin. If I hit the little plus, I can start typing in emails in here. However, I don't have to type them in. I can just copy and paste. So if I've got them written down just on a notepad with a comma between them all, I'll just copy them in, paste, and there they all are, all in there. They'll all arrive as one level. So I will probably put these guys in as admin because they're the other people doing this webinar chain. So I will send them an email. That'll confuse them because I've already done that once. So they now all have the email. If I do need to change anybody in here from admin, I can. So if I don't want Steve to be able to edit the model, I can make him a viewer in there. And you can see he's now at the bottom as a viewer. And if I wanted Matt to be able to edit this but not be admin, I'll make him a collaborator. All of these you find in the help. Everything in this help, it's the best help you will see. You'll get news, you'll get messages, you get community, and you get all your help files in there as well. So it's very easy to use. So that's your project members in and a brief introduction to your libraries. Next, we're going to be creating some areas and our site limits. And they're useful for a few different reasons, which we'll go into as we do them. So these are found down here in these toolbars here. So I've not gone through the interface in a lot of detail. We'll just do it as we get there. So this is where you can draw things like buildings, and you can also do your site limits, different zones, constraints, which have vertical heights on them, so you can show where there is a height restriction. We don't need it in here. Our hotel's much smaller than the buildings in here. So we'll just put a site limit in. Now where that's useful is you can use these as analytical areas. So I can say, if I'm going to run the analysis, just run it in this area here. I don't need to see what happens with the weather over here or over here, just within the bounds of my hotel, for example. So that's my site limits in, and I don't necessarily need to see it, so I'm just going to turn the little eyeball off. It's still there, it's still usable, but it's not useful. I'm going to split this area up into 3 different zones. So we can use these zones here, and again, these can be used for analytical purposes. So I'll create the zone where the hotel is going to go, and it's going to go here. So I'll just draw around my site here. So if you don't, can you see it's snapping? Just a top tip, if you don't want it to snap, you hit the Alt key and it won't snap. So I'll just hit the Alt key and just click here. When I'm ready, I will just double click to finish. And then I'll give that a name. So I've just selected it, I'll give it a name, and I'll just call this one Hotel. So I know this is where the hotel is going to go. Let's create another zone. And I'm going to snap to the hotel, and we'll just create this area here for parking. We've no idea if this is going to be the right size for parking. We'll worry about that later on. I'm just going to snap to there. Pick it, call it parking. And then phase 2 of our site is this area here. And we're not sure what's going in there at this stage. So I'll just put a zone in here. I'll snap to there. Bring it around here. I won't bother putting in the roady bit. To here. And then I'll just snap back onto the edge of the parking. And we'll just call this one phase 2. Whoa. Spelling went a bit wild there, didn't it? So we've got our 3 zones. Now, if you want to colour up the map, I mean, you don't necessarily need to do it. If I don't want to see all this kind of aerial imagery in there, of course, we can just change this back to a normal map. So it just looks like that, which is quite good for mass modelling. It's a little bit less in your face. You can also show it with contours, and you can show the triangulation model underneath. It's just a tin surface, a triangulated irregular network. Okay. Let me go back and we'll work with it in the map mode now. So it just makes life a bit easier for you to see what's going on and it's not as busy. Now the first thing I want to do, this terrain, you can see it's got bumps and humps in it. So my hotel area is not flat. So I want to see what level the land is around this area now. So on this first one, you've got grids and measurements and there's elevation at cursor. So now you can see wherever I put my cursor, it's got an elevation on it. So actually around the 24-meter mark is reasonable in there. So I'll just turn that back off. So I could do with just setting that terrain flat in order to place my hotel on it. Don't need to do it for the rest of it for now. We can leave that as it is. So we want to edit the terrain. So that's our next task. We're going to edit the terrain. You can, by the way, if you're working with Civil 3D, bring surfaces in from other tools, but this is just the preliminary work, so it's probably not worth doing that at this stage. So let's go and edit the terrain. You'll see it's in here, and if you know anything about software, if you see a little pencil, that usually means edit. So just hit the little pencil on the terrain. It goes into edit mode. There it is. And all you need to do is we just need to trace this object that we created. So it's another reason why you would work with zones. So I'm just going to select it. And you'll see immediately it's flattened that terrain. It's put this straight line on it here. But I want it at 24 meters, so I can just type it in. And then we can just examine what that looks like. There's a little hump in here, but that's all right. We can flatten that. Now we don't need to, oh, I'm in the building. I've gone into a building. Let me just zoom out a bit. We don't need it to have like vertical sides in there. We can put a slope on it, and that's what this is for. You can just slide the bar here either way. You can see it's putting this, at the moment, a 1 in 5 slope. If I want it less than that, 1 in 3, that's now got a 1 in 3 slope between the hotel and the car park there. Okay. So I'm happy with that. We can just go back. And that's where our hotel is going to go. If you did want to colour this up so you can show it on the aerial imagery, you can create surfaces. So if I go to these generic tools here, I can create a surface in here. So for example, I can draw on here and say this is actually going to be where the concrete area is, or the pad for my hotel. And if I select it, I can choose whatever colour I want. I'll kind of leave it grey and I'll just set that to 100 and you'll see it's just coloured it in. If you want to see a little bit through it, set it to 95 and you can just see a little bit through it. Maybe this is going to be a green area, so I can go in here, surfaces. One thing I might do a presentation on at some point is all the shortcuts as well. Let me know if that's useful for you, because there's a load of shortcuts in here. So in here, I'm just going to go in and make that green, kind of pick a green colour, and I'll set that to, what was it, 95? Something like that. So you can colour it up nicely, and then if you're showing the aerial photography, you're still colouring over that area. Okay. So that's quite nice. You can put some trees in. There are some additional tools in here, but you can put basic trees in here. We can just draw them across in lines, just to show that this is a kind of green area, and we can choose the height of the trees. Maybe they are 3 meters tall. The gap between them is maybe 4 meters. I wish my thing wouldn't do that. The width of them will leave at 1 meter. And you can also put areas of trees in as well. So maybe this area here. And that will put some trees in. If I select them again, we can change the sizes of them and the density of them. Okay. So that's a start. Next, I'm going to do the mass modelling. So we just want to get an idea of our building. It's a little bit like SketchUp or Forma or tools like that. So we've not done the Revit modelling. We just want to get an idea of what our building is going to be like, so that when we run the analysis, it's got some level of realism with it. So our mass modelling tools here, they're called 3D Sketch, and they're fully integrated in the interface now. We'll just start with the cube. I'm going to stick it out the way and then move it all at the end. So I'll just bung the cube in there. Now we can just type the sizes in here. So this one is going to be 15 by 44 by 30. And I'll just plonk it there for now. There's a pool at the back here, so I'll just put another cube in. Note it remembers them sizes, and it will orientate to anything that you want it to, including the mapping data. If I orientate it to these buildings here, you'll see it will orientate. I'm just going to plonk mine at the back here, but I do need to set the sizes. So this will be 23 by 11 by 6 in there, and I'll just plonk that there. I've placed it the wrong way around. I should have maybe done the dimensions differently, but I can just use the rotate tool. But before I do that, I'll put the roof on it, and then I can rotate the two together. So I'll just put a roof on it. Now the size of that roof will be 22 by 10 by 3. I'll plonk that on the top. When I show you the Revit model, you'll see it. So let's just rotate these around. In here, you need to pick all the elements, and we'll rotate it, and we'll just rotate it 90 degrees, and then we'll move it, and I will just pick that corner and place it next to the building. Enter. So that is our pool area. Let's model the actual shape of the building that we've kind of agreed to. So you can just like in SketchUp, you can just draw and extrude. So I'm going to plonk a circle on here, which I will bring out to about there, like so. I'll put a spline on it, kind of from here into here a little bit and then out to the end, like so. And then we want to draw some lines on here, so we'll just draw some lines on there. You can type in dimensions, by the way, so that's a 2 meter line. I'll just carry on drawing. I'll just do it by eye now. Like so. Okay. And now we'll just extrude them. So just take that face, use the extrude tool. Doesn't matter where I pick, because I'm going to go down, and I know how far to go down. It's 30 meters, isn't it? Pick that face, extrude, down 30 meters. Pick that face, extrude. Now this one I want to go right the way through the model, so I'll just type bigger than 30 meters. And the same with this one here, that face, extrude. And again, I want to go more than 30 meters. That's roughly the shape of my building. If you do get these red lines, you can just delete them. There's kind of little mini geometry errors where you've got joining geometry. And that's not far out. Might have moved that over a little bit, but you get the idea of that. Now you can also add floors. So it will show the floors now, which is quite nice. And you can set the sizes of them and how many floors there are in there. So maybe that one wants to be twice the height. Maybe it wants to be 5 meters, whatever. You can change the sizes of the floor. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to go and move it. If I use the rotate tool, I'll rotate it in that direction. And I will then move it. And you're best picking the bottom corner when you're moving things, because it's going to sit on the surface. So we'll plonk that on our site. And there is a brief introduction to maths modelling. I can just hit the X now and go back into the model. And there is our 3D building with a pool on the back. It's very posh around there. If you're unsure of the area, it's where the BBC and ITV are. And that is 3D modelling. So we can add parking in here. Now it is an add-on, an extension, should I say, not an add-on. So let's have a look at that. It'll kind of give you an introduction into extensions. So extensions can be got here, and add extensions. Oh, I'm just in a thing there, let's get rid of that. Or you can get them from here. If it's a tool that you want to add in here, you can see extensions there. Or you can get to the extensions from here, which is your analysis extension. So some of the extensions are analysis, some of them are tools, but you'll get to the same area whichever one you press. So here is the Autodesk App Store. Now this is a good introduction into the fact that Forma, it's not a piece of software, it's a platform that you and I can develop into if we have the skill sets, and one that lots of other companies and organizations can develop into, as well as Autodesk. So at the moment we've got these add-ons. There's a fair few in there, some really useful ones in there. This is where you can also get your download for the add-in for Revit. You will be needing that. I'll show you that later on. There is one for Rhino there as well, and Dynamo. Navigate's quite nice as well. I quite like that one. There's an on-demand parking calculator, a shadow study. But the one we're working with today is this test fit car parking, which is an AI run configurator. I think AI is probably a bit overused in some areas, but there are some AI tools being developed in here. So let's add that in. It's now added, so I can close that down. You can see it's arrived in here, and I'll go back to my proposals. So it will be in our tools here. So if we go down to the bottom, there's our add-ins, and there's our test fit parking. So I'll click on that. And we've got a few options here. The first thing is I'm going to configure it. If you select it here, you can configure the sizes. You can do this afterwards, by the way. You can draw it all out and then configure it. It doesn't really matter, but I'm here now. So 2.4, 4.8, aisle width 5, turn radius 6. We don't need a maximum run. And yeah, let's go with that. Probably, do we need a maximum run gap width? Is irrelevant because we've unticked that. So I'm happy with them sizes. So we can either just sketch it out, just literally sketch it where you want, draw a rectangle, draw a circle, or trace an existing shape. There's a few options. I could just put it in there and see how many fit, but I actually think the rectangle one's quite good. So I can select in here, and now you can see I can pull it out. So if I go to here, don't get many in, but if I start pulling it out, you should get, ooh, what's going on here? That was interesting, wasn't it? Did not do what I wanted it to do. I can double click it and just pull it out, and you can see I can then kind of get a grip of how many parking spaces I'm going to get. So we can just drag it in and out and see how many parking spaces you're going to get in your site. Okay, I'm going to go with that. For the entrance, you can move that. That little dot will allow me to move the entrance somewhere sensible. There's a road down here, so that's where I'll place it. Yeah, and that's a very brief introduction to the parking tools. I will close that down now. And we shall move on. We're going to start with our analysis tools. Now, some of these analyses do take time. Some of them take up to 40 minutes, somewhere around there, for some very detailed analysis. But before I do the analysis, if I'm going to do noise, is the one I'm thinking of at this stage. If I'm going to do noise, you're going to need to set up your roads and rail with noise or average annual daily traffic, average daily traffic. I'm not going to go and do the whole model because it'll be very boring watching me do that. I'll just show you how to do it, and then I'll have it pre-configured. Okay. So first thing is, we do have some roads already in here. These have come from the OpenStreetMap. Okay, they are part of the base. Again, I will cover that in a different presentation where we can have multiple bases in there. We also cover that when we do the training. If I want to edit the base, just double click and it'll say you're editing the base. So when I select this road now, you can see you've got a speed and an average daily traffic. So this is quite a large road. You can also say what percentage is at night, what percentage is in the day. Now I do know this is a major road, so it's actually a lot wider than that. You can multi-select. If you hold down Shift as you click, you can multi-select. Be aware though that some of these, if I zoom in, you can see there's little tiny road segments. It's now to do with Autodesk, now to do with Forma. It's just how it works. It's the way that OpenStreetMap has been built. But you can multi-select to change all the roads. Let's go in and just do this one here for now. And we'll say that the speed limit on that in kilometers per hour is 70. It is a major dual carriageway running through the back of Salford. And the average daily traffic is 5,000 vehicles. You can get some of this data, but if you're working with an authority, they will probably have this data already. So that's how you would set the existing roads. So you'd go around doing all the roads and just saying what the daily traffic is. Some of the smaller ones you're going to have to guess. You know, if there's 5,000 running on here and that data is available free of charge, again, Inspire Directive has that. You can probably guess how many are in here based on the buildings. You know, there's maybe, 50 in and out during the day, during a 24-hour period on that one. Now to draw roads, if you're going to draw them, they're here. So we can just add a road in. So let's say I'm going to go from here down to my site and stop here. Let's zoom into it. Again, I'm going to hold down Alt so it doesn't snap, and I'll just put it to, say, there. Double click, and there's my road. And I can do the same in here. I can set the width of that road, 5.5, it's only a little road, and add the traffic data. So that will be 30 mile an hour, so 50 kilometre an hour, with an average daily traffic with all them buildings and the hotel of, I don't know, maybe 500. Bit of a wild guess. You can also put rail in here as well. Now I do know that this is a tram line running down here. There's a tram line running down here. In fact, if I turn the aerial imagery on, you will see the tram line. It does run on this road as well. It does get confusing when you've got two on there. But you can do railroads as well. Bit American that, isn't it? But if I just draw one in here, get the idea. So I'll just double click it in there. When I select it, I can tell it its width. I can add noise data in here. So again, average trams, there's not as many, is there? You know, there won't be as many in there. It may be that the trams don't run at night, so you'd set that to 0. But you do say what type it is. It's either a train, a tram, or a subway, because obviously the noise levels will vary. So in this case, it's a tram. So you'd go and do that all the way around here. I will show you an example when I've done that, rather than you watching me do that. I'll just turn the aerial back off. Okay, so that's only if you're using the noise data, you would need to do that. So our analysis tools are up here. Now on the first one here, these are your area metrics. So if I pick a particular site, can you see the selection area here? If I pick all of them in there and I just say phase 2, so I'll uncheck all the others and just do phase 2. In there you can see it's just highlighting phase 2, and we can see buildings and units and parking. So there's the how many spots we've got in the parking area, etc. So we can pick all our bits that we want. But if I'm going to do the analysis on the site limits, you just select that and you can see it highlights it. So that's quite useful in there. You've got sun hours. You can set your dates. You can add dates in here as well. You can and remove them. So you can say what is it in the middle of winter, what is it in the middle of summer, and you can, I don't know, let's say you've got a particular festival on in August and you want to see what the weather will be like, or sorry, what your site's going to look like at that time when, I don't know, the Pope's visiting or whatever. You just run the analysis. Now the beauty here is, because it is the platform that it is, I can carry on working. You know, that'll just run in the background. So I can carry on modelling, or I can go and run a different analysis. So the daylight potential. So I can go and run that analysis. There's a wind analysis. This one, it'll do a brief analysis, a very quick analysis straight away. That circle can be adjusted in the terms of the size of it, like so. And you can also do a custom circle and better position it around your building. So if I click in there, oh, I double clicked, didn't I? Didn't mean to do that. Let me do that again. Custom circle. Just place it more centrally on your building. It's going to run a very basic analysis. There it is. So it gives us this comfort and direction. And there's our direction. So we can have a look and say, well, it's more often westerly. So that's what it looks like westerly. And we can pick the speed up. So what's it like on a really windy day where it's running at 12 meters per second? So we can see what happens in here. Okay. You'll see the other analyses have also completed in the background. So if I want to view the daylight, the sun hours analysis, I can click on the sun hours analysis. It opens up in a new panel now. This has changed. And then we can have a look at how many sun hours we get on our site. So you can see we've got ground in here. We've got the building faces and the rooftops in there, and then on just other areas as well, which is quite nice. If you go into the settings, so that's what it's like in January. Let's have a look at the June one. As you'd expect, a lot brighter. And then our August festival series or whatever in there. You can also turn these on and off in here, and you can set the times as well. You know, it's not that relevant at 4 in the morning, is it? So we'll probably go from 6 till, 6 is a bit early, isn't it, in August? We'll go 6 till 9 on the time, and then it'll tell you how many hours you get within that area, and it will colour it up. So you can see the back of our hotel is very dark here, and our pool area is very dark, and this is a glass roof, so we could probably do with having a bit more sun here. So this is where it gets really useful, because what we can do here, I'll just go back to the area metrics and turn these off. What we can do here is I can duplicate this proposal. So we've got proposal 1, proposal 2. So I'll rename it. So I'll just hit the ellipses again and rename it. So I'll just call that one, what are we doing? Go wait, proposal 2. Now in proposal 2, let's pick that and let's rotate it. Oh, I did move, didn't I? Do the rotation. Let's put the sun on the pool. Need to move it. I picked the wrong point again. When you move it, don't pick, because it'll move the point you pick to the floor. So I'll just move this, say there, like so. So we'll move it there. Close that back down. And let's rerun the sun hours. So the sun hours, we'll run the analysis. I'll need to add that August one in, won't I? Was it the 15th or the 12th? I forgot. I think it was the 12th. We'll make sure we pick our selection, which is our site limit. I'll just unpick the others and just pick the site limit. Run the analysis. And now we can leave that running in the background and see what happens in here. So that's finished. So let's open it up. And now we're getting a lot more sun on our pool area. Let's have a look at it on our August festival season. And we're getting a lot more sun on it. You can use this button here and just keep clicking. It'll tell you what the sun hours are wherever you click. The nice tool is the compare tool. If you click on compare, so we've got our proposal 2 here. Let's go to proposal 1 and do sun hours. And we've now got our proposal 1 here. We've got all the data in it. It's probably easier if I just collapse these. It's quite nice you can collapse all these so you get a bit better view on it. And we can spin this around and see the difference on our 2 sites in here. Okay. Oh, went a bit wild there, didn't I? Okay, so again we can go, okay, what's the sunlight there? What's the sunlight there? Spin this one round, sunlight there. And again we can also go and change the dates, etc. Let me just turn that down. Oh, can you not change the date? I'm sure you can. Oh, we'd need to do that here, wouldn't we? So let's go to our August, and on this one we'll do the same. We'll go to our August in here. So in proposal 1 we get 3.2 hours of sun on our pool, and in proposal 2 we get 10 hours in our pool area. Okay, let's just go back to site design. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these today. I'll just show you some images of them at the end to give you an idea. In fact, I'll do it in a second, and then we'll go on to the discussions. So wind is there. You've seen that briefly. There's a more advanced wind one, which takes a while. You've got a microclimate one here as well. If I go into the microclimate, I can, again, make that circle bigger, choose an area, run the analysis. Noise is here. Again, this has got a really good, you can see this preview of it there. It can be quite a powerful tool. That one takes quite a while as well. Again, you just run it and jigger off and go make yourself a cup of tea. Solar's quite useful. So if you're thinking about putting solar on here, do these high-rise buildings mess up your solar panels? So that's quite useful, isn't it? So we'll do it on the site limit and we'll run that one. Microclimate's here. I'll just show you that quickly. Since it's come in, there's our microclimate, and you can pick your temperature zone, you can pick your time, pick your dates, etc., and it'll give you these microclimates. Now, as you've probably heard me say, if you've been to any of my GIS ones, about 1,000,000 times I say this, you have to understand what you're being told. Luckily, in Forma, you get a data source link. So there's no reason why you can't understand what you're being told. These analysis tools are brilliant, but they can never be, they should never be a black box solution. As in, you press a magic button and pretty pictures come back. You need to know what it's actually telling you. So always make sure you read the small print, and there's a lot of small print, but it's worth doing. Okay. Let me close that down. The solar energy one, that's the one I wanted to show you, isn't it? Oh, I'm going way over time, aren't I? So there's our solar energy on the roofs. You can do custom surfaces, so it'll do the fascias as well on here. And you can see what your total energy potential is and your average solar energy is in there. So just a brief hint on that. So if I click on that roof there, 960 kilowatt hours per square meter. Okay, let me just show you some of the results, so bear with me and I'll pull them up. Here it is. It's the same, exact same proposal. You can see the building, it's very similar. I've just added a little bit more context, and I've added all the rail lines and the road traffic data and stuff like that. So if I go to the wind and look at the detailed one that I did in the history, where are you? Wind, wind, wind. So in here, we can see we've got rooftop wind. We can again change the direction, etc. Let's just wrap it up on there. We can also add streamlines. So if I turn streamlines on, you can see there these little streamies. So if I've got a southerly wind, we can do them by importance or height variation, where we can actually change the amount that they vary, or we can do by height. So we can actually drag these streamies up and down our model and see how they affect our buildings. You can see that's where it's hitting our building. If I go for a westerly, we're well sheltered in the westerly, but if I lower them a little bit, speed them up a little bit, again, we're still getting an effect on it. But we can run these analyses on both proposals and then compare them like I've just shown you. So they're very, very useful analysis tools. So now I want to really, we want to discuss it as a team, don't we? We want to kind of have our say on this project. So we have a thing called the notice board. Let's have a quick look at that. The notice board can be found here. I've pre-done some of this in this model that I'm showing you with the results in, and then I'll just show you how to add things. It's dead easy. So we'll go to the notice board. So you can see what I've already added in here. I've just started by saying here's my overview of my proposal with the entrance facing north. Remember I spun it round, and here it is with the entrance facing south. So this is better for quayside access, but remember that one was better for the energy in the swimming pool. So we're going to get better performance in there. You can add little notes in here, and everybody can have their little say. So Ian Robinson, whoever he is, he's had a little say there, and anybody can have their say. Everybody who's got access to this project can have their say. I've just put this area in here to say, look, we're getting better solar energy from the north facing, no significant difference in the window. To add these things, they're dead easy. So if I go into proposal 2, and let's say I want to put the noise data in here, can't remember which way around, 2 is at the top, isn't it? So I'll go in here and pick the noise data when I find it. There it is. In here. We can size it however size we want. Just drag it out. You can set the view as well. So I didn't show you creating views, but you can create basically camera positions in here. I've done that in the other webinar. So if I go and just pick the site, it will zoom into the site. In fact, that might have been the site. No, it won't have been. So it'll zoom into the site. It will do it, trust me. We can also go and add proposal 1's version of that. There we are. Oh, didn't zoom in very well to the site, did it? Maybe that site isn't actually a good one. Oh, that's, yes, because it's showing where the pool is. But I'm more interested in the noise, so I'll just do the wind one. It will line up. You get nice little liney up grips in here. So again, I will set that to the same view as that one in there, and just add text. Just write your text in here. You can set the size, you can set the style, you can set the color, and we can say in here no significant difference for residents, etc. Like so. And we can add little squiggly arrows wherever you want to put them. So you can have these little arrows. There's not very good. I'll just move it. Oh, that was rubbish, wasn't it? Let me move that out of the way. Put an arrow in. There we are. You can make them bendy as well if you want. These arrows, make them bendy, like so. So dead easy, just put them in. You can see you can put text in, you can draw on it, you can put these frames in it. That's all these frames are for. Just put a frame in there. You can give it a name, you can change its opacity. I don't want to do that. It groups things together when you put them in frames. One thing to note, to undo anything, Control Z, just your standard Control Z tools in there, if you decided not to do them. You can group things together as well. So if I wanted to group that with that, you can multi-select, right-click, and group them. So now when I move one, I move them all. I've grouped all these things here. These are all grouped. Oh, they should have been. Oh, you can lock them as well. Can you see they're not moving? So if I don't want that to move once I've done it, I can lock it. This one's the same. I can lock it as well. So you can lock them so that then you cannot move them, which is quite nice. So yeah, it's just a board where you can all chuck images on. You can even put in your own images. You know, you can say, I've been on site, there's a photograph of it here. This is what it looks like. And you can just upload any image that you want to the site, etc. And that's the board. So lastly, I want to get it into Revit, don't I? I suspect this is why most of you are actually here. You do need to install an add-on, but it's dead easy. I'll show you it. So I want to put this proposal into Revit and then into the cloud that Kevin made. I can pick any of these proposals. I'll just do this one, and you'll see here we've got a Revit option, and we don't have to go into the add-ons area because you can see download Revit add-in. You just click on that, give it a minute, and it's downloading the MSI. Just install that MSI. I'll show you where that lands in Revit. Next, you will send to Revit in here. The proposal has been sent to Revit. Now the next stage does take a minute or two, so I've prepared one already. But this is an empty drawing here, and if I select, you can see it's at 0,0,0. There is literally nothing in this drawing whatsoever. It's just a totally empty drawing. When you install that MSI, if you go to Massing and Site, you'll have a new panel called Forma. If you go to Forma, you can load the proposal from here. There are some load options in here. So for example, car parking spots. On the buildings that we create, not the mass models and not the mapping buildings, but the buildings that we create, you can actually get it to create roofs and floors, etc. For the mass models, it will create mass families, etc. You can import the mass models and do the editing in here, and you'll see there's an update proposal. So if I was a really good Revit user, I would take the mass model and maybe edit that if need be, and then I can push it back to the proposal. But in reality, we're going to just model the building in Revit separately. We just want our site, so we've got context in there. It'll bring the terrain in, it'll bring the satellite imagery in, it'll bring everything we want in. You can also bring the subdivisions for roads and properties. So then property boundaries, it will create a terrain subdivision for each property boundary. If you don't want that and you just want a single terrain, untick them boxes there. There's one for the site limits as well, but it will bring the terrain in. So you just hit OK, and we're going to load that proposal. It says, oh, there's an update, typical. I'll continue without updating. And that is going to load in here. I can go into the options again from here if I'd forgotten to do that earlier, that's fine. And I'll just click load. It will take a minute or two, so I'm just going to pause it and I might go and grab a cup of tea. Okay, that's loaded. You will get this message up here which says you need to attribute OpenStreet and the Environment Agency when you publish this. So just like with Ordnance Survey, you need to put in the copyright notices in there as well. You'll also get some error messages, some warnings, should I say, not error messages. So for example, topo solids and floors might overlap. You'll also get where lines are slightly off axes. Of course they are, it's a map, it's not a building. So I'm just going to close that down, okay? If we have a look at this whole site, it's brought that in. If I go into the 3D view, you can see here, there's my model in 3D. And of course you can use all your view options in Revit. I haven't changed anything here, that is just exactly as it comes in Revit. If we were to, oh, you can't do that in perspective mode. If I was to get the site on here, let me just find that. You will see, remember it was at 0,0, project base point, survey point, and there it is. It's now a coordinated model. You can see the coordinates there and over here, and that's a coordinated model. You've got a coordinated model in Revit. So the next thing is to save it into the cloud. So you save it as a cloud model. I've already done that. And pop it into the project so that this model is now sat there for everybody to see. Well, I'll show you that in here if I just do save as a cloud model. Save as, there it is, cloud model. And all you do is you pick the project you want to save it to. There it is. into the project files, into the Revit, blah de blah de blah, architecture, site, etc., and you can fix that. And we are done. So let's carry on with the presentation. So that's us done. Learn all you need to know before you commit pen to paper. That will be available on demand soon. Next up, next Friday, we are moving into Revit, which Steve will pick up where I've left off. He is doing what's new in Revit, so you'll see the new feature. So don't expect him to work entirely in this model, or even at all. I don't know what he's going to be doing in that, but the principle is I've gone into Revit. He's going to show you what's new in Revit, and then we'll move on to working in advanced steel and coordinating between Revit. So it's really all about the coordination of that. Any questions? Feel free to ask them now. Unfortunately, I can't be here, but I've got colleagues with me today. So if there is time, I suspect there isn't because I always overrun, and I apologise if I have. You can always ask them if there isn't time, please just send them to that email address there. But I'll leave that for the guys who are helping me out, and I'd like to thank you very much.